I remember going into the first date and being like, do you want children?
I've gotten to a point now where having children is on my mind constantly.
Can you get insurance for your kid?
His exact words were,
if we have one, we have to have two.
Hello, you have just been added to the Bloom chat.
I'm Hameda, your brutally honest bestie.
And I'm Sohan, and I will soften the brutal blow.
So we're going to unpack and unfold all of your dilemmas. You just have to send in your issues anonymously to us and we'll address them.
The sealed section.
What is our DM talking about today, Hameda? Tell me.
It's a little bit of a controversial one, but here we go. Help, I'm ready to have kids, but my partner doesn't want them. I'm a 29-year-old female in a long-term 7-year relationship with my partner, who is a 39-year-old male.
Oh, age difference.
Age difference. This is the guy I will marry. During our first serious relationship talk, he made it clear that he didn't want any kids. I was 21 at the time and didn't think that I wanted kids. So I agreed and we continued our relationship. I see your face, but we'll discuss that later. I've gotten to a point now where having children is on my mind constantly. I feel like there's a hole that needs to be filled. I've brought it up several times with my significant other, but he remains adamant about not wanting children for a number of reasons. So they haven't told me what the reasons are.
Yeah, I was like, what are the reasons?
I feel guilty in a way. He's made his feelings clear from day one, but I hadn't gone through enough life to figure out what I wanted. He has begun to come around from a hard no to a soft no.
Still no.
Still no. With various boundaries around when we have a certain amount of money in the bank, when we own a house, and generally have the means to support a child. I've been careful not to force his hands. Ultimately, I need this to be a joint decision as I'm not signing up to be a stay-at-home parent. The reality is that he's only considering this because of me. I have a very deep fear that if we go ahead with this, he'll somehow resent me if parenthood turns out to be as bad as he thinks. Do I learn to be content with what we have now, or do I take a risk?
Oh,
heavy.
This is very tricky.
So many layers.
There is so much to unpack there. We're going to come back.
Yeah.
But firstly, I want to know, Hameda, do you want kids?
I've changed my mind on this many times, and I feel like most people have. Right this second, I'm like, I wouldn't mind having a child.
When I was young, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to be a mum. Like, definitely going to have kids. I want 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. As I get older, I'm like, hang on, do I want them? I've always kind of thought that I'll have them, but I'm not sure if that's my own decision or if that's what like the values in my family are. It's like, you're going to have kids, you're going to get married.
Yeah.
So I agree with what you say, that it is ever changing. And I think obviously that's what the DMer today is going through. She's changed. When she was young, she didn't care. You're young, you're vibing, who cares?
I think that, like you said, the cultural impact, because when I was 21, I was like, by the time I'm 25, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to have a husband. And I had all of these thoughts, and you know me now, and how direct, like that's not at all my personality. No, like I'm completely different. If you think about that, I'm 28 now, and our DMer was 21 at the time. So like, it does change.
That's something we're always told, like, oh, when you get older, you'll want kids. But I'm still kind of waiting for that.
Yeah. I also really don't like that narrative.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of like erasing people who genuinely just don't want kids.
Exactly.
Like, some people won't change their minds, and that's okay too.
And that's okay. So I'm just not ready to like say goodbye to this era of my life. Honestly, if I could have kids when I'm 55, I would do that.
And some people won't ever be ready. And I think some people just weren't made to be parents.
So I looked up some stats. I went to Google and I looked up the Australian Bureau of Statistics.
Wow.
In 2019, new mothers aged 30 to 34 years outnumbered new mothers aged 25 to 29 years. Mums are choosing to have kids later in life, but why? The Conversation, which is this website, they did a study. They surveyed more than 500 Australians aged 18 to 24 from diverse backgrounds. So we're talking younger peeps. 24% of respondents are pessimistic about having children in the future. The reasons are complex. Young people see a stable home and financial independence as prerequisites for having a family. Those who were optimistic about having children were also optimistic about their futures. Like, they had high hopes, they had financial security and access to supportive social networks. I mean, I don't know why the DMer's guy like didn't want kids though.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we knew, but like there are so many reasons around it. Like, we were talking about trauma, like maybe he had a bad experience and he's like, I don't want to repeat that with my own kid. Maybe it's overpopulation, climate change. However, I think holding someone to something they said when they were that young, that's where I'm like, you can't expect someone
So
to...
you reckon the guy in the relationship shouldn't hold her to what she said?
No.
Or you reckon yeah, but
Because
it's his choice too, though.
It is his choice, but I feel like...
He should have known, like, hey, I'm dating a 21-year-old. Sure, she's fine to hang out and party now. But, like, she might want to change her mind when she gets older.
But also at 39 years old, having these like boundaries set about having enough money. I'm like, shit, am I going to be 40 and not have money? Like what? Like I feel, I don't know. It's
Because you kind of just think like, yeah, one day I'll save money.
Yeah.
One day I'll stop buying clothes on ASOS and putting it through Afterpay.
And when I do my budgeting, I'm like, wow, I'm barely making it with my cat. My cat is my child.
Yes.
I'm like, so having an actual real life child to have to pay for, I'm like, I can't fathom it.
Can you get insurance for your kid? Because you can get pet insurance.
I don't know. Is that just health insurance?
Oh, yeah. Our DMer has said, do I learn to be content with what we have now or do I take a risk?
Yeah.
The risk being have the child, prepare to be resented for the rest of your life, maybe even end up being a single mum.
Yeah, or break up. That's
Or
a
break
new
up.
relationship and try it with someone else, which is a bit scary. 'Cause
that is
when you're
very
comfortable in
scary.
a situation, it's really hard to get out of it, right? Yes, she thinks that this is the guy she wants to marry, but how does she know that? She got with him at 21.
Yeah, maybe he's not, especially if they don't have the same goals in
and
life.
this is what I'm saying. If you figured out that you want different things, what's the point of staying together?
And it's tricky because then, yeah, if she goes ahead and has this kid and the guy's like a soft no, you know,
Yeah.
that's almost guaranteed to turn to shit. Like, it does
Yes.
not sound like a good sitch.
No. And she talked about it. She's like, is he going to be resentful?
Yes,
And
he
then-
will.
Yeah, he will. But I'm like, are you going to be resentful if it goes the
Yeah,
other
if
way?
he doesn't show up in the way you want, if he's not being a present dad, you're going to resent him. Your relationship's going to crumble anyway. However, we are about to add someone to the Bloom chat who has been through a very similar experience.
Yes.
So shall we add
Shall we add
Evbev to the chat?
Evbev.
Let's
Get
add
in here, Evbev.
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 Yeah, let's mic her up.
Red flag, green flag.
So Ev, before you started growing a human in your belly,
Yes.
you kind of went through something very similar. So we're going to play a game of red flag, green flag, where you tell us your story, and we are going to say whether it's a red flag or a green flag.
Okay, so I started dating a guy. I was about 27 and he was 31, so not a huge age gap. We dated for 5 years. Very early in the relationship, we did have a really, really tiny conversation around children. And I remember him saying,
I don't want kids.
and I remember internalizing that thought and going, do I want kids? But I was also in a stage of like, well, I'm not ready yet, like blah, 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 I'm not thinking about this. Fast forward a year and a bit, we've moved in together. Something challenging has come up in our relationship that I was very hurt by. It started to make me think about the future. I brought up the conversation around children, which we hadn't had really at all at this point. Probably red flag right there. Yeah. I said like, you know, I do want children. I think I thought about it at this point. And I said, do you? His exact words were,
If we have one, we have to have two.
to me, I kind of took that as a yes.
I would take that as a yes.
I would immediately be like, what the fuck are you talking
No,
about?
but I get that because I'm an only child and I would never just have one child.
If he's against, or not against, but like doesn't want to have children and then suddenly he wants to.
And Hameda, that's a very smart response. But at the time, I was like, he loves me, and I love him, and it's gonna work, and we're gonna be magical. I was so into this guy. Fast forward some time, but the thought never left my mind. Like I was always like, does he really? So I would like use opportunities and be like, oh, my friend's kid, hold it, and watch it and be like, how does he react? Does he like it? And if he wasn't liking it, I'm like, maybe he doesn't want them. I was a bit too scared to bring up the conversation out of fear of pushing him away and losing the relationship. So yeah, we moved to London, and when we got there, we were gonna apply for a visa. And it was like big moments like that. First of all, he was always scared to do big moments like that. Like never wanted to have a joint savings account, never really wanted to like talk about buying a house in the future, which red flags, left, right, and
Yeah,
centre.
wow.
But again, at the time,
No, of course.
a bit more naive to that situation. And I'm like, if we're going to commit to this visa, like, are we committing to a future together? He basically said,
I don't think I can give you what you want.
and I was like, fuck,
Oh my gosh.
what do I do now?
Yeah.
And so we were in London in my parents' house. I was crying. I was like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? He
So
said,
I don't know if I can give you the answer that you need right now.
basically, it still wasn't a yes, it still wasn't a no.
Yeah.
And I just said, I just don't think I can do this anymore. Like, it's been 3 years. The way I can describe the way I feel in this relationship is I'm dangling on this string and
Yeah.
I don't know which way it's gonna go. I'm telling you what I want. I just need to know what you want. That's when he said to me,
Yeah, I don't think I can give you the answer that you want.
and I had to basically cut it off. But I was so heartbroken. And in that space of time, I kind of like went to counseling. I kind of looked at all the things I did in the relationship and blamed myself for like everything. So then I went back to him and was like,
Oh no.
I'm so sorry about everything that I did in this relationship. If you are still uncertain and maybe like if we fix things, then you will want them.
Oh my gosh.
Enter the relationship again.
Oh my gosh.
And then another 18 months down the line. In that 18 months, I think because I was going to counselling and I was like learning a lot about myself, there was a lot of things that I saw in the relationship that I was like, actually, fucking hell, there's a lot of problems here and lots of red flags. So when it did end, he actually ended it like in a counselling session, lol. It was never really like about the kids that it ended, but really that was the underlying cause the whole way through.
I would say, first of all, therapy, amazing counseling.
Yeah.
Go to therapy,
Oh, 100%.
please. The other thing I picked up from your story was the testing. I think if you have to test anyone, that's your intuition telling you. Sorry.
Yeah.
It sounds like while you were going through it, the red flags were not very obvious. In hindsight, you
Yeah.
can kind of see exactly like where those red flags came up.
When she was talking about resentment, 100% you will
Yes.
resent. There's no way around it. Like
Yeah.
one person is going to resent the other. And now even looking back, I'm like, oh my God, if I'd had children with him, like fucking
gosh, yeah.
that would have been a disaster.
Well, saying goodbye ended up turning out great for you because now you've got a
It
little
did.
bubba.
It did, and it didn't take long. I remember going into the first date and being like, do you want children? How many and when?
I think that you don't really see the flags until you're out of it or you're on the outside looking in. And again, it's about growth and learning. And yeah, I think, obviously it's worked for you.
Yes, it has. Thank you for joining the Bloom
Yes,
Chat,
thank you,
Ev.
Ev. It was so good to have you.
Yay.
Help me, Hameda.
I feel like we've learned a lot. We've talked about a lot throughout this episode. I honestly believe that it needs to end. I think it's a lose-lose situation. I think if he doesn't know what he wants at 40 years old, he's probably not going to change his mind. And I think the more that you kind of prod and poke and try to get him to change his mind, the resentment's just going to build up. And no one wants that. You just got to trust yourself, trust your gut, trust your intuition. You sent me a DM for a reason, and this is your answer.
Yeah, Hameda's right. You probably should break it off, but it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard.
Make sure you have a support system in place, because Ev also had a support system, which is incredible. You're going to thank yourself in the future.
You will. And also, you're young, so you still have time and you'll be right.
You'll be right. And
mate.
you'll have a little baby. So if you want advice on any situation that you have, feel free to DM us at bloom@BuzzFeed.
Bloom at BuzzFeed.com.